Hi, I'm Dr. Iris Bell, psychiatrist, neuroscientist, and holistic health expert. If you've been battling stubborn brain fog, low energy, or trouble focusing after meals, it might not be stress, aging, or sugar crashes. Today, I'm revealing a hidden link between histamine intolerance, mast cell activation, and cognitive dysfunction, a connection most doctors never mention because they don't know anything about it. I've lived through it myself, and what I discovered from my own experience and from patients I treated after that could change how we understand food-related brain fog forever. If you've tried everything and still feel mentally foggy, you need to hear this. Let's dive into the science and the solutions.
Mast cells and their relationship with histamine. Most people associate histamine with seasonal allergies and reaching for Benadryl or newer antihistamine allergy drugs. But this powerful chemical messenger plays a far more significant role in our brain function than anyone realized. The truth is, every time you eat certain foods, especially processed junk foods, you might be triggering a cascade of events that leads directly to that fuzzy, unfocused feeling in your head. The science behind this revelation starts with understanding mast cells, specialized immune cells that release histamine and other chemical mediators. These cells exist throughout our body, including our brain, and they're incredibly sensitive to various triggers, especially certain food components. When these mast cells activate, they don't just release histamine, they unleash a complex cocktail of chemical mediators that can cross the blood-brain barrier and directly impact our cognitive function. This isn't just about feeling sleepy after eating, it's about a systematic disruption of our brain's normal functioning. The most alarming part is that common ingredients in processed foods, artificial colors, preservatives, and certain flavor enhancers, can trigger these mast cells to release their contents. Even more concerning, high-fat meals and sugary foods can amplify this response, creating a perfect storm of cognitive dysfunction. Modern food manufacturing has introduced countless synthetic additives into our diet, and many of these compounds can trigger mast cell activation. This means that seemingly innocent snack choices might be secretly sabotaging our mental clarity, creating a cycle of brain fog that becomes increasingly difficult to break. What's particularly fascinating is that histamine receptors in the brain are different from those found elsewhere in the body. This explains why traditional antihistamines might help with allergies, but do little to improve your mental clarity. The H3 and H4 receptors found in the brain respond differently to histamine than the H1 and H2 receptors targeted by common allergy medications, mapping the maze of mast cells. Today, I will take you through a comprehensive journey of understanding how your food choices might be triggering mast cell activation and affecting your cognitive function. We'll break this down into several critical components to help you grasp this complex but crucial connection. First, we'll explore the science of mast cells and histamine, explaining exactly how these immune system components influence your brain function. We'll examine the different types of histamine receptors and why their location matters for cognitive function. Next, we'll delve into specific food triggers, both high histamine foods and histamine-releasing foods. You'll learn which common ingredients in processed foods are most likely to trigger mast cell activation, and why even seemingly healthy foods might be contributing to your brain fog. We'll then explore the practical solutions available, from dietary modifications to supplements and medications. This includes detailed information about histamine avoidance diets, the role of diamine oxidase enzymes in various medications that target different histamine receptors. Following that, we'll discuss the implementation of these solutions, providing a step-by-step approach to identifying your personal triggers and developing an effective management strategy. This includes practical tips for grocery shopping, meal planning, and eating out while avoiding histamine triggers. Finally, we'll look at the latest research in this field and what it means for future treatment options. We'll explore emerging understanding about the gut-brain axis and how it relates to histamine intolerance and cognitive function. Throughout this video, I'll share both scientific evidence and practical experience, helping you understand not just the what, but the why and how of managing histamine-related brain fog. This information comes from extensive research and consultation with leading experts in the field of immunology and neurology. My own histamine journey. Over 30 years ago, I hit my breaking point with stomach pain and brain fog. Despite eating what I thought was a healthy diet, I couldn't shake the raw, irritated pain in my stomach most days, or the constant mental heaviness that followed meals. Multiple doctors dismissed my symptoms, suggesting everything was from stress. I already could tell that even though stress made things worse, the symptoms would develop and persist even if my life was calm and peaceful. None of their prescribed solutions worked. The turning point came during a conversation with an allergist immunologist 10 years ago who specialized in mast cell disorders. He noticed my mention of symptoms consistently worsening after eating certain foods. That's when he introduced me to the concept of histamine intolerance and mast cell activation. My first food diary revealed shocking patterns. The worst brain fog episodes followed meals containing artificial preservatives, aged cheeses, and processed meats. Even some healthy foods like fermented vegetables and certain fruits were triggering symptoms. The connection between these foods and my cognitive difficulties became impossible to ignore. Testing revealed I had high levels of histamine breakdown products in my urine and low levels of diamine oxidase, DAO, the enzyme responsible for breaking down histamine in the gut. This deficiency meant histamine from foods was building up in my system, creating a cascade of symptoms, including the persistent brain fog that had plagued me for years. The most revealing experiment came when I started taking DAO supplements before meals. The improvement in mental clarity was dramatic. Combined with a low histamine diet, I finally experienced what clear thinking felt like again. Now there are even probiotics made specifically for people with histamine issues. But the journey wasn't simple. It took months of careful food elimination and reintroduction to identify my specific triggers. What fascinated me most was learning about the different types of histamine receptors in the brain versus the rest of the body. This explained why traditional antihistamines never fully addressed my cognitive symptoms. The H3 receptors in the brain, crucial for alertness and cognitive function, weren't being targeted by any allergy medications. The science of histamine and brain function. Let's break down the exact mechanism of how histamine affects your brain. Histamine acts as a neurotransmitter, influencing everything from sleep-wake cycles to learning and memory. When histamine levels become imbalanced, either through food intake or mast cell activation, it disrupts these crucial brain functions. The 4 types of histamine receptors, H1, H2, H3, and H4, each play different roles. H1 receptors primarily affect allergy symptoms. H2 receptors influence stomach acid production. H3 receptors regulate neurotransmitter release in the brain. H4 receptors modulate immune response. Foods that can trigger mast cell activation include artificial preservatives and colors, MSG and other flavor enhancers, sulfites in processed foods, high fructose corn syrup, certain artificial sweeteners, processed vegetable oils. Additionally, naturally high histamine foods can contribute to symptoms. Aged cheeses, fermented foods, cured meats, certain fish products, alcohol, especially wine, avocados, and other histamine-liberating foods. Treatment approaches typically involve multiple strategies. Dow enzyme supplementation, low histamine diet, mast cell stabilizers, targeted antihistamines, natural anti-inflammatory supplements such as quercetin, which can help stabilize mast cells and keep them from releasing their mediators into your system. The most effective treatment plans often combine dietary changes with appropriate medications and supplements. Different antihistamines target different receptors. First-generation antihistamines, like Benadryl, primarily H1 receptors. Second-generation antihistamines, like Zyrtec, more selective H1 targeting. H2 blockers, like Pepcid, target stomach acid production. H3 receptor antagonists, experimental drugs for cognitive function, breaking free from histamine-related brain fog. The future of treating histamine-related cognitive issues looks promising. Researchers are developing more targeted approaches to managing mast cell activation and histamine intolerance. New medications specifically designed to modulate H3 receptors in the brain are in clinical trials, showing potential for improving cognitive function without the side effects of traditional antihistamines. Emerging research also points to the crucial role of the gut-brain axis in histamine sensitivity. Scientists are discovering that supporting gut health through specific probiotics and dietary interventions can help regulate mast cell activity and improve histamine tolerance. Genetic testing is becoming more sophisticated, allowing for personalized treatment approaches based on individual variations in histamine metabolism. This means more targeted and effective treatments for those suffering from histamine-related brain fog. The development of new enzyme supplements shows promise for more effective histamine breakdown. Next-generation DAO supplements with improved stability and absorption are in development, potentially offering better relief for those with histamine intolerance. Your path to clearer thinking starts with understanding these mechanisms and implementing appropriate interventions. The combination of dietary changes, supplementation, and possibly medication can lead to significant improvements in cognitive function. Your action plan for mental clarity. Let's summarize the key steps to addressing histamine-related brain fog. First, start with a detailed food diary to identify potential triggers. Consider testing for DAO enzyme levels and histamine intolerance. Next, implement a low histamine diet, focusing on fresh, unprocessed foods. Finally, explore DAO enzyme supplementation under medical supervision and consider appropriate antihistamine medications based on your specific symptoms. In the big picture, support your gut health with diet and possibly the right probiotics to improve histamine tolerance. Remember, this isn't about eliminating all histamine from your diet. It's about finding your personal threshold and maintaining histamine levels below it. The goal is to reduce the total histamine load on your system while supporting your body's natural histamine processing capabilities. Taking control of histamine-related brain fog requires patience and consistency. Start with small changes and build upon your successes. Pay attention to how different foods affect your cognitive function and adjust your approach accordingly. If you're struggling with persistent brain fog, consider working with a healthcare provider who understands histamine intolerance and mast cell activation. The right support can make a significant difference in your journey to better cognitive function. What's next? Subscribe to my channel for more detailed information about managing histamine intolerance, improving cognitive function, and maintaining optimal brain health. Each week, I share new insights and strategies based on the latest research in this rapidly evolving field.
As always, all of this information boils down to a simple message. Take some self-care steps to improve your health, especially in your brain. You can change the way things are going for you. Get started today. And remember to click the link in the description to claim your free extra tips, checklists, and more.